Our family have been making gin in London for 155 years. My great-great-grandfather was a gentleman called James Burrough. He was a pharmacist, a chemist by trade, and he very much pioneered the true English style of gin.
He was the first in our family to have a real passion for English gin that we're very proud to continue today.
What I'm very pleased is that the distillery we have today in London is only about 4 miles away from where my great-grandfather started his gin distilling business.
At that time, London was full of gin houses. Today our distillery is based on an old London gin house but with a modern twist. Hayman's is quite different from other gins because we follow the original English gin making methods. This is a 2-day process. So on day 1 we steep our botanicals in English wheat spirit, and then on day 2 we actually distill our gin.
When I talk about true English gin, you're really looking for a balanced style of gin. And we often compare this to an orchestra. You will hear the strings, the wind, the percussion and the brass all playing harmoniously together. Not one is dominating over the other.
We only use 10 botanicals. My great-grandfather created that recipe and we continue that today. We believe very strongly that it gives a total balance to the flavour of our true English gin.
London has historically been the leading gin city, and it's where the majority of distillation has taken place over the past 150 years.
Why we think it's very important that we continue distilling in London now and for future generations of the family.
We are very fortunate to have this amazing gin heritage. James and I are both 5th generation and my father Christopher is 4th generation, and we're still very much involved, and I think we're very lucky that the passion for gin distilling has continued throughout the generations.
Traditionally, gin stills in England have always been named after women, and ours are no different.
Our 3 main stills are Marjorie, named after my own mother. We have Karen, who's my wife, and Miranda, who's my daughter. Our London Dry Gin is really our signature family gin. Very crisp citrus note to it. It's got a background of exotic spices and it has a remarkable depth about it. It's great for making classic cocktails.
It is perfect in a true English gin and tonic.
Although London Dry is the most famous style of gin today, in London the original style was actually Old Tom Gin.
You will often find it in many of the cocktail books written during the first cocktail era 155 years ago.
The difference for Old Tom Gin is it's more rounder and richer compared to the London Dry style. There are a few stories of how Old Tom Gin took its name. People tried to get around not being able to make gin by making it illegally. And the way they sold it was by taking a wooden cat, placing it in the window of their house, and as people walked past, they could drop a penny into the mouth and receive a shot of gin through the paw.
And the cat was quite big, it was a male cat. A lot of male cats are called Old Tom.
And it's where the name Old Tom Gin came from.
Sloe gin is a combination of our London Dry Gin in which we have allowed sloe berries to add flavour to the gin.
The result is a rich ruby red flavoured liqueur served as a winter warmer on its own or over ice.
Hayman's Royal Dock is our Navy strength gin. The reason gin was at 57% is that if spilt over gunpowder, the gunpowder could still be used. Perfect for making a high strength gimlet and also for a very hearty martini.
One of the other gins we make is gently rested. And this goes back to the 1850s and 1860s. There was no stainless steel. Everything was stored in wood. We put it into a cask for 3 or 4 weeks. We're not trying to age it in any way. We're just trying to recreate that sort of wooded atmosphere to the gin. So it's similar to a gin as consumed in the gin palace back in those days.
Although Hayman's is made in London, it's available in many bars around the world. We actually export to over 60 markets, and it's always a great joy whenever I'm overseas to be able to go into a bar, be it in New York, Sydney or Shanghai, and be able to ask for a Hayman's gin cocktail.